I traveled across the world with the MSI Claw to see how good handheld gaming is and if it's the future of video game. A huge thank you for MSI for providing me with a review sample of the MSI Claw and making this video possible. Now, there are two different variations of the MSI Claw that you can purchase, one with a 512GB SSD and an Intel Core Ultra 5 processor, and the high spec model has a 1TB SSD and an Intel Core Ultra 7 processor. Fundamentally, performance is relatively similar between the two different devices, and the major difference is actually the storage space. The Claw's also got some very unique features, including a fingerprint scanner for the power button so you can log in very quickly, along with a 53 watt-hour battery, which is much larger than other handhelds available in the marketplace, so you do get a little bit better battery life. But we will test that in this video. It is also Wi-Fi 7 compatible, has a Thunderbolt 4 connection for both charging and also connecting this to external displays, which makes it very useful as a desktop replacement or alternative, plus Hall effect analog sticks and triggers, which gives you 4x durability and also reduces any form of stick drifting. So my trip first started off in London, where I had to head down to the airport to fly out to Germany. I spent a couple of days in London getting familiar with the MSI Claw, setting it up, and also installing all of my games on the crazy fast Wi-Fi that was at my hotel. Now, I did have one strange glitch when it came to connecting to the internet. This was via the MSI dashboard. For some bizarre reason, it was detecting the internet available. You'd type the password in, click connect, and it would just never connect. But luckily, because this device is running Windows 11 Pro natively, I could just hop straight into the network settings like you would on a normal laptop or desktop computer within Windows and just connect to the Wi-Fi that way and bypass the MSI dashboard, and this fixed it. It connected to the internet no problem, and then it went ahead and did its own update, so the issue was quickly fixed. Cool, so I've just checked into my hotel and we're going to be taking this MSI Claw over to Dusseldorf. So we've got to take it on the flight, take it overseas, and I think it will really keep me entertained while I'm actually on the flight. Now, I didn't need to go to the airport until about 5 a.m. the following day, so I had loads of time to put in my hotel room, and the MSI Claw was the perfect device for this. Instead of me just sat around watching terrible daytime TV, I just booted up the MSI Claw and played a huge range of different games. Another thing I'm going to be quite interested to see is the performance drop-off if we disconnect the power. So far, I've only really played around with it in the studio, it's getting set up. I'm now getting it fully charged up for the trip in the early morning. So I'm just going to mainly play on it in here tonight, actually plugged in, just to see if when I do get on the plane, I notice a huge drop off in performance. The MSI Claw in this situation helped pass by many dull hours in the hotel room. I got to play Cyberpunk, Spider-Man, Hogwarts Legacy, just a few games that I can remember off the top of my head.
Six and a half hours later.
I messed up a little bit here. I didn't bring a jumper because I assumed it was going to be red hot, and right now it's raining really bad and it's 5 a.m. and freezing cold.
After I'd woken up a little bit, it was now time to enjoy some games while on the go. Thankfully, the MSI Claw does support aeroplane mode, so I enabled that, and then I could jump in to continue my session within Cyberpunk. Now, obviously, because we're using our traditional PC game launchers such as Steam, we do have cloud saved enabled, so I can continue all of my saves directly from my master gaming PC at home. So as long as the device has synced up before you turn it offline, you can continue those saves. Then as soon as you land or get to your hotel room and reconnect to the internet, it will sync that new save data back to your Steam account, for example. So you can then continue those saves when you get back home. Right, so I've just arrived in Germany and I actually had a good little play on the MSI Claw while on the aeroplane. So I booted it up. Brightness on the screen was superb. It's super sunny day, as you can see outside. It's red hot. It's like 26 degrees here. So that sunlight was streaming through the aeroplane, and I could play this. I didn't even really need it on full brightness either. I think I had it on around 70%, but full brightness was more than bright enough. This screen looks insane. While we're talking about the screen, let's break down some of its specs. So this is a 1080p 7-inch display, and it's 120 Hz with support for variable refresh rate. It's also touchscreen, making it intuitive to use with the on-screen keyboards and also clicking around on different icons, or you can just use the joysticks to control the mouse cursor around the screen. The choice is yours. And now I actually need to go to work. I'm just getting ready for that right now. So I'm actually going to throw the device on charge, because you've got to think about this. You're not going to be gaming on it for 24 hours a day. You're going to be using it in the key moments when you're traveling, then either using your desktop PC when you're actually at home. So I'm going to throw that on charge in the hotel room, then obviously be using my laptop throughout the day for work stuff, and then I can come back in the evening and entertain myself. So when this product first launched, I have to admit it had atrocious performance. The reviews absolutely hammered this device for being basically rubbish. However, fast forward a few months and many driver updates and BIOS updates, bringing leaps and bounds in the performance department. In fact, the most recent BIOS update as of making this video had a 30% increase in overall performance, and some titles even had a 50% increase, which is kind of insane. For the maximum performance from the MSI Claw, it's best to run the following settings. In-game graphics quality is set to low. XE super sampling is performance if applicable. Turning VSync off, and also FPS limitation off. And of course, using the full 1080p resolution from the display, and within the MSI Center, ensure that extreme performance and overboost are both enabled. Titles such as Hogwarts Legacy hits an average of around 80 frames per second. Forza Horizon 5 was around 75 to 77 frames per second. A personal favorite of mine is NBA 2K24, which hit an average of 152 frames per second. So this title here could even have an increase in particular graphic settings if so desired to get it around 120 frames per second to match the refresh rate of the display. And then other popular titles such as Fortnite around 88 frames per second and Sons of the Forest around 55 frames per second.
Good morning, welcome aboard this Southwestern Railway service.
Right, so I've arrived back in London now with the MSI Claw, and I took it obviously overseas to Germany, and it facilitated a great amount of playtime on the actual aeroplane. So obviously there ain't really much to do on an aeroplane. You can't really do much work on like a European flight because it's tiny, and you can't get like a laptop out and put it. It just doesn't really work. It's not enough space. Whereas with this, I could just get it out of my carry-on bag. Now the great thing about the MSI Claw is it's a brilliant complementary device. So I personally use a MacBook as my main work laptop because it just works really well with my iPhone. I can AirDrop, which is very efficient workflow wise. But obviously my MacBook isn't great for gaming. So when it goes into the late evening or even the travel segments of my trips, there's not much I could do other than just listen to music or something. Whereas I could get this out insanely lightweight, and I could play my video games that I'm not really having too much time to play because I'm not at home too much during this period. I'm away filming, doing a lot of different bits and bobs for work.
The ergonomics of the MSI Claw make this a very comfortable handheld. I haven't noticed any cramping in the hands when I've been using it for a few hours. With other handhelds like the Nintendo Switch, I do get cramp after like 20-30 minutes of holding that thing because it's just too small. Even though this is larger, it is still lightweight, and the placement of all of the triggers and buttons are all very convenient. And at the rear, there are also 2 additional macro buttons that make this very useful for additional assignments.
You can get away with cranking it down to low, like rock bottom graphics, because the screen's so small anyways. So even things like ray tracing, some games were playing with it on, some games were playing with it off. And I've got to be honest, I can't really tell the difference if it's on or off because it's 7-inch. The screen's just big enough. All those intense graphic settings that you have to have on when you're on a desktop PC, you can get away with sacrificing.
Something also worth mentioning are the haptic feedback and vibrations. So when you do the web swings or shoot triggers and the guns are firing, there are vibrations that go through the handheld, which just makes it much more stimulating to play and also gives you a degree of confidence that you've actually pressed certain buttons because the device is almost responding and giving you that additional sensation.
People keep looking at this device. Have you noticed that? When we're filming with it, people are like, and I was on the plane, the person sat on the seats next to me was like, oh, that's a cool device. Like, what is that? And I've never had that before. Like, no one's ever said, oh, that's a cool device. So it has sparked up quite a lot of conversation when I have had it out in public and a lot of attention, but in like a good way.
There are further ways to eke out additional performance from the MSI Claw and also prolong the battery life, and that's within the MSI Hub Center. Here you can switch out different profiles that will influence the power draw that's happening on the device, which is useful depending on the intensity of the game that you're currently playing. So if you're playing something like Cyberpunk, obviously you want to crank that thing up to the max, as well as also all the fans up to the max. That's going to obviously be detrimental to the battery life performance. But if you're playing some games that have FPS caps on them, like 45 frames per second, or emulator games that don't require an intense amount of processing power, you can reduce these presets and expect a good 2 to 3 hours of battery life. Right, so I'm just about to head off to the airport again, and we're going to take the MSI Claw on a trip over to Taiwan. This is going to be a 15-hour flight, so we'll be able to test it in a much more intense environment. The last flight we took it on was obviously much shorter. We were literally up then down, so the full hour or so battery life was sufficient for that entire trip. This time we're going to obviously need the charger to plug it into the plugs that are provided within the aeroplane, so in that way we can continuously keep playing. But it'd be great to see how much we're going to actually use it on a really long overseas flight that will then allow us to hopefully pass the time much faster. Now with the battery life from the MSI Claw, depending on the games that you're playing, it could be anything from an hour to 2.5 hours on average. But I found if you played the game in phases, you could play for maybe 40 minutes and then throw the device on charge, because of course this does use a laptop charging port that's Type-C, so you can use the power plugs on the aeroplane, and then you can have a little rest, watch a movie, and then go back to your gaming sessions a short while later. Now, to be honest, on this flight, it was around 15-16 hours. I probably only used the MSI Claw for around 3 to 4 hours maximum, because you have to bear in mind you are also adjusting to time zones, so you sleep quite a lot on international flights. And then of course you have millions of different meals that you have to eat. They keep bringing you different dishes, so that constantly disrupts you, so you put your laptops or your tablets or your gaming handhelds away. But it was good to have it on hand to, of course, break up the trip a little bit.
So I've had the MSI Claw now for over a month and a bit, and over that period of time, performance has improved quite a lot. Now, when this first came out, the performance, it was really bad. And then it did a few BIOS updates. I think during the period of time I've had it for, there's been 2 or 3 updates that we've done on the device itself. Then also Intel drivers as well for the art graphics. Now, it'll be interesting to see how it performs while we're out and about today, because it is red hot here. It's like 33 degrees, very humid, thick air. So I wonder if the device might overheat or get much hotter. We've been using it in air-conned environments, both on the aeroplane, in the hotel rooms. Now, obviously back in the UK, it's absolutely freezing cold.
Now, to my surprise, the MSI Claw performed amazing in these extreme conditions. I played it for probably almost 2 hours, consistently outside, and then we jumped inside, briefly charged it up, and then I went back outside. And I didn't have any difference in performance compared to in the cooler environments that I was using in, which was absolutely insane. I think this is down to probably one of the best heat cooling designs on all of the handhelds that I have personally tried. The MSI Claw has got fan grills absolutely everywhere, which obviously looks quite cool, literally, but also it's functional in terms of the performance and assisting in that area on the device.
Anyways, let's talk about some of the compatibility when it comes to the games that you can play. Now, unfortunately, right now, MSI don't seem to have any form of a dashboard that sort of says this game is compatible. Obviously, things like the Steam Deck do have like a little green tick, so you know if the game is Steam Deck compatible. Now, most of the time, obviously, Steam compatible games are probably going to work on the MSI Claw, so obviously you can tell that way. But MSI are soon going to be dropping like a supported games list that you can view on the website, because I've had a few games where I've gone ahead and installed it and then it hasn't worked, which has just been a little bit annoying. Not the end of the world, because I'm stopping in hotels quite a lot this month, so it's got rapid Wi-Fi, so it's like up, down, boom, drop, done. Whereas if I was at home, that would have been like a day of downloading to then find out it didn't work, which would be a little bit annoying. So thankfully that list is coming, which would be very, very useful to just help you find what you can actually play and what you can't play on your MSI Claw.
Overall, it's been a fun experience trying out the MSI Claw. This is probably the most time I've spent with a handheld, and in fact actually traveled with a handheld extensively. I've had the Steam Deck in the past, but I mostly used that in and around the house. I never got the opportunity to take it out and about like I did with this one. This has truly opened up my eyes to the potential of portable gaming and the future of these styles of devices. And I think the experience with the MSI Claw is very good. I was happy with the performance of all of the games, especially F1 23. This is one of my personal favorite racing games, and I very much enjoyed playing this on the go, jumping in and out of career mode, and those vibrations inside of the MSI Claw assisted very much in actually feeling what the tires were doing on the track. Hopefully things can continue to get better with more driver updates and BIOS updates to assist this device and take it to the next level. Now, one way you can leverage even more battery life out of the MSI Claw is also use it for Xbox cloud gaming, where you stream your games via the internet, so it's much less intense to the hardware and the processing power of the console. And if you actually want to learn more about Xbox cloud gaming, you should check out this video next, where I tried Xbox cloud gaming on the fastest internet in the world. But as always, I've been Ben Rowlands. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.